Hey Libra, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This astrological forecast is for Libra Sun, Libra Moon, Libra Rising. If you have strong Libra in general, if you have that Libra in your life that you're trying to understand a little bit better, if you have progressions that are strong Libra right now, this forecast is going to give you some generalized information about what areas of life, what dynamics will be at play during this first half, at least, of the lunar cycle. So our new moon is at 3 degrees Libra on the 25th of September. It will take us up to a partial solar eclipse in Scorpio on the 25th of October. And this forecast is going to be looking the next 2 weeks up to the full moon in Aries, which will be conjunct 17 degrees Aries. And for those of you who are subscribers to the Catalyst Classroom and have been keeping up with the material on Chiron and certainly Tau Ceti and Andromeda in terms of starseed origins, you know how important this full moon in Aries is going to be. So Libra, we're going to look at the main themes leading up to this point, because you and Aries, because of where Chiron is, and especially you Libra, it's like this is a do-over in some way. And there are things that are getting wrapped up truly at the karmic level for you, Libra, because Venus is still in Virgo for a few more days. Mercury is just passing back into Virgo. So there's still some analysis. There's still some puzzle pieces that need to be moved around. There's still some more numbers to crunch, but it's all in the unseen, esoteric, astral, karmic realm of the 12th house for you, Libra. But with this new moon, you're really starting to come back into who you are. And who you are is so seamlessly and purely expressed in the realm of relationship, the 7th house. And Chiron being there for all of us has been, where have we held ourselves back from asserting ourselves, asserting our subjective identity as valid and as worthy of being, just because? Where have we maybe rooted for the underdog but not really supported ourselves in that same process? Libra, as the new moon really sets the tone for looking forward to starting a new cycle and who you are, it's going to come directly, and it has been, but in this cycle in particular, I think what you're going to find is that what has been off in relationship land, whatever type of relationship you're talking about, whatever is interpersonal to you, if you are starting to recognize the ways that you have betrayed yourself in asserting yourself, or have bypassed it in some way, or bypassed relationship because of the shame and guilt around asserting yourself in relationship, you've already started to, I think, really come to feel and acknowledge, at least in those unseen ways with all of this Virgo energy, especially when we had the full moon in Pisces, and currently Neptune is here in your 6th house too. I think in terms of what is it in terms of your everyday actions, your own work on yourself, your ability to address challenges and crises in your life in terms of personal growth and maturation and patience and coming to fruition. It hasn't been easy with Neptune in the 6th house in Pisces, because it so completely dissolves those practices down to almost nothing, that in some ways it's really great so that you can rebuild from truly nothing, but at the same time to pull yourself back together in this realm can be very difficult. And I think Libra, it is the connection to a material reality of polarity, of subject object, of relationship, that is what your identity is kind of based on. But it's the real challenge to the Libra person is to truly let themselves go in their own, like allow themselves to dissolve in order to basically solve problems and to get deeper into who they are and to find their compassion. Because a Libra person without compassion, true universal love and compassion, is much more on the Saturnian side of things, and can be it can be very cutting, right? You know, that card of the Queen of Swords, for instance, and or even the Princess of Swords, right? Because you are ruled by Venus. Libra people are ruled by Venus. Justice is blind, truly. And so what is felt in terms of the balance of scales is truly what is balance and equilibrium. And this is about honing our sensitivity to that balance so that we feel it and not necessarily influenced by what could be distorted visually. And part of that is Neptune in Pisces has been challenging the Libra person, I think, to get real with yourself and to establish a direct connection to your divine blueprint or template in what you do every day, right? There cannot be a separation. And I think that has, you can find yourself kind of like wondering if it'll ever come back from that. And I think this is where that's going to start making itself known to you, Libra. So just having some enthusiasm or a sense of possibility that there is always new cycles when one ends. And truly, with Venus and Mercury retrograde and even the Sun in Virgo in your 12th house, there has been a lot of wrapping things up, putting places where they need to be karmically. And Mercury's still going to be working on stuff, taking some stuff from its retrograde through, back through your sign, about who you are, how you project yourself into the world, especially how you feel about yourself now that the moon is coming into your sign. It's giving so much information about, the potential as a Libra person to establish yourself as like a blind arbiter. But you have to, it's in the relationship. You have to be able to meet the relationship and to trust yourself and your instinct in the relationship to the point where you don't have to, feel any shame or guilt necessarily of asserting yourself. And Chiron has just been absolutely instrumental. And I feel like a lot of Libra people, for the sake of keeping the balance within themselves or, just maintaining in a lot of ways, have been falling back into more of the wounded healer dynamic of Chiron, where the relationships have been the Libra person being a healer or being a guide or a teacher as a means to really take a roundabout detour kind of way into, not for long, but into the aspects of relationship where there's a risk involved. And Saturn in your 5th house of Aquarius has been, is not very easy to take risks in terms of your heart, your voice, like romance, if we're talking about relationships, especially if we're talking about like using the Chiron aspect of your spiritualized consciousness, like Uranus kind of taking over and kind of being the mediator there, whereas Saturn, it's been kind of a downer in that house that has to do with like lust and romance and your own sexuality and really just being a vibrant version of yourself. But it's been in retrograde, and I feel like that it's been keeping the Libra person actually really honest with what is there and responsible, incredibly responsible with that energy, because it can't, you can't really afford, none of us can really afford at this point to not be conscious of our connection to the collective and how our own voice has an impact on that. And Libra, I mean, to have fifth house Aquarius, I mean, those two things are pretty much joined at the hip, is that your resonance is completely tapped into the collective consciousness and vice versa, and finding a creative way to express that and to embody that has been the challenge, right? And it has to be like without any boundaries. This is what Neptune and Pisces in your sixth has like forced the Libra person to have compassion in every day. You know, it's one thing to have compassion with Aquarius in your fifth, because you can kind of detach emotionally, as that Aquarian archetype suggests. It individuates, but it has not been easy to take a risk with your heart, to take but it also has been keeping you from taking unnecessary risks too. Now, there are a couple things that are going to happen during this time, Libra. Number one, Saturn is going to station direct during this whole lunar cycle. In fact, Saturn's going to station direct during this whole lunar cycle. Pluto is going to station direct on the cusp of the full moon in Aries, which is actually going to be up here in conjunction with Tau Ceti, and Venus will be opposite Chiron as well, your ruling planet, right? Venus, as a Libra person, is your ruler, so it's going to come into your first house, and boy, you're going to come into that role. You know, you're going to, and the value of it, the meaning of it, the meaning of you as that role is going to heighten considerably. But again, it's going to pull on all of the aspects of who you are in the relationship that are a function of old wounding, right? Or a sense of shame or guilt, or that sense of not having enough, or that sense of not being enough, right? And this is really our inner child when we're talking about Aries, right? And it needs to be nurtured as well as understood for what it was, and not, you know, we need to know the difference between our higher self and our inner child, and how those things really overlap too. So, boy, Libra, not to put any pressure, but geez, it is about to come back around to you as a person and the way that you interact with the world around you. So Pluto's coming direct, Saturn's coming direct, Pluto's coming direct at the full moon. So this is home, family, your inner life, your personal power, your core, your stabilization. Boy, has that not been challenged with Pluto in Capricorn, and the fact that it's about to turn on right as we get to this full moon, because understanding yourself in relationship and all of the things that go along with it, especially because Jupiter here has been retrograde in this area. And, you know, it's just like squeezing all of the meaning. Instead of expanding, it's contracting in this area. And maybe we start really doubting ourselves or the overall meaning of our participation in these relationships, and what it can mean. But this has just been part of the retrograde with Jupiter, right? Talked about, it's like this deflation that's like a balloon deflating, or, you know, you're squeezing the bellows closed. And so, yeah, it is a constriction, but what's happening is it's forcing out the air, the spirit that is necessary to keep the fire going, right? The fire of Sagittarius, by the way, which is what Jupiter rules. So a lot of imagery here, but Libra, what I see here is you coming back online, right? Like, and as comfortable and or as much as your intention always is to achieve balance and to be the agent or the representative in some way of this equilibrium, balance, justice, fairness, in your own feelings or in your identity or your creative projection, whatever it is. And symmetry, aestheticism, right? Beauty is all part of Venus and Libra as well. But if you can't trust yourself in the relationship, if you can't trust that you can just assert yourself or even just address those wounds of assertion or wounds of, acting in your own self-interest in relationship, it is difficult to, even establish who you are, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you're putting to bed, Libra, about who you've been. And now it's time to start really utilizing who you are as a Libra person to start giving you information about who you are, not what you can do to balance the relationship, but to learn about who you are as a function of what the relationship feels like. Does it feel balanced? Do you feel the subtle shifts when certain things move around, when you assert yourself? Maybe when you start to assert yourself, you feel things shift around. Maybe you feel the need to really pull in so that you can understand how you function in relation, so that you understand then how the dynamics will absolutely move around you when you change as well. I mean, this is about what justice and fairness truly feels like within you, right? So Libra, this is where you just have to step into who you are. Now, like I said, Pluto stationing direct, Saturn stationing direct, full moon in the 7th house. Boy, it's gonna be a strong, powerful, fiery, electric feeling, right? That full moon in Aries conjunct Tau Ceti. This is the belly of the Kraken in the Cetus constellation, Tau Ceti. This is a starseed group that is very much put their energy into that warrior mode, because there is a strong memory of having to go through the process of being invaded before, right? The idea is that the Tau Ceti people, or the beings from Tau Ceti, are actually descendants from the Lyrans that left the Lyran system, right? This is the galactic mythology. The Draco come in, they have these huge battles, and there is a retreat and a establishment throughout the galaxy, and Tau Ceti is one of those places, and they have a lot of energy focused on, defensive and taking that stance of being a defender. And it's very difficult not to just act out in self-preservation when there is a threat to one's subjective existence, right? And so sometimes you may have found that was a necessity, Libra, that you had to push, establish those boundaries. Maybe you found that you had to withdraw and generate that energy for yourself in your relationships, because you knew that if, attempting to establish an equilibrium or a justice, or to try to have a balanced transaction in those relationships, was not going to work. But now it's time to start utilizing who you are in terms of learning about yourself without getting pulled into the trauma of those events, if that makes sense, right? We learn from them, we grow from them. Our tissue, emotional, and fabric gets stronger, just like when you have an injury and you have to go through physical therapy, you get body work, you get energy work, and it gets stronger because you condition it that way. And your body learns how to heal itself and how to, we are so, this is like going off on a tangent, but this is about thinking about this in terms of relationship, Libra, is the new perspective that you can draw from this whole lunar cycle. So it's in terms of your core foundation, Pluto stationing direct here, coming back to the next Pluto return point of the U.S. natal chart. There's a lot of starseeds with this degree. This is opposite Procyon. So the threat level in terms of your, where your power comes from, Libra, is going to kind of turn back on. And the fear factor, I think, is going to start amplifying again as the machinery turns back on and starts, going through the process of destruction further on, right? There was kind of a fallow period. Things were kind of like exposed, and, we had to really process that within ourselves. And now this is going to start moving forward. So realizing that, this root system, there's a release here in order to, again, establish a new root system that may be very difficult for you to let go of, because you're talking about your actual energetic root system. But even that is even that has to answer to Pluto at some point. And that doesn't mean that there aren't new root systems that are going to grow, right? And that's the whole point of this new moon, is that you intending that you yourself are the seed, and you will establish a root system through the process of growing into the new version of you, okay? And part of that is going to be learning how to face the mirror of your relationships and learn from your own pain and suffering and transcend it, as opposed to getting pulled into that same old story of like, okay, well, I'm just going to either shut down, or I am going to wear myself out attempting to balance this relationship because it feels out of balance, and I actually don't feel safe in it, but I want to, okay? And this is incredible work to be doing. So I think that Pluto stationing direct at the full moon is going to be kind of like that moment of just like the gears turning on, and you get full illumination again of how you can remind yourself how you can at any point kind of come back to this place where you can pull in and generate your own energy, even if the outside world, even if the social setting, even if the relationships you're in are chaotic or not balanced, because you yourself can find that place of, oh, I've been here before. You're like a retired captain that's like standing on the shore and like seeing it all and being like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember. It's a calm mind. And you may even find that it allowed that even if it's a projection, right? Even that sun in your sign of a projection of it will also give you a full embodied sense of how you can generate potency and yourself, right? How you can truly emotionally see not yourself within the relationship in a way that allows you to generate the energy that you need just from the reflection, right? As opposed to taking on the responsibility of being the balance, you know what I mean? Just put yourself on the scale and trust that the divine scales here will balance themselves out. It's about having trust and taking the step to do that. And of course, Chiron is a big part of all of the ways that we have betrayed ourselves in this way. And for you, Libra, it's just right into relationships. So when Saturn stations direct at the end, towards the end of the month before eclipse season, which is, by the way, in your house of resources, Libra, right? 2nd and 8th house, what you have and what you share. And that certainly is going through its own process of individuation and kinetic energy that is rapid and shifting, or you're innovating. And certainly the soul pulling you into this space as well is its own thing, but the eclipse cycle itself still in the realm of 2nd and 8th house. And before we get there, though, there is something that turns on in your own heart, right? Something in terms of taking a risk, something in terms of your pride and joy. That's the 5th house, your pride and joy, whatever that is, your children, your own, sense of self, your creative activities, right? Something that you are actually putting yourself into, whatever you whatever that feeling is, it's like when Saturn moves direct, it's just like all of that internalized pressure that really kept you from like taking it seriously and realizing that it can only be within the confines of what this crystallized structure really represents for you. And I think it's going to serve to be a very powerful tool. And in fact, it's trine over here to Mars in Gemini, which, your belief systems, your, religion, philosophy, advanced training, right? Higher education, journeying and traveling, mystically and otherwise. It's the big picture. And Mars in the ninth house is incredible as long as you're not doing it personally. And I would say that considering that Chiron, Mars for all of us in this area is so contingent upon what we are doing with Chiron and Aries, how we're seeing it, how we're working with it, how we conceptualize it, that for you, Libra, the ninth house represents the spirit of the law. And of course, when you conceptualize the spirit of the law or the full pattern of meaning as this Gemini framework, which makes sense considering that you yourself as the Libra person has this the two wings, right? And the two sides of the scale. It makes sense that you would frame the society, the belief systems, the big picture or the horizon of the full experience would be framed by the polarization and the need for the polarization to even find an equilibrium, right? And to establish that is ultimately seemingly the goal here. But when Mars is in this place and rules not only Aries, which is where Chiron is, which is all this, vulnerable tender points here, these trigger points of Chiron, the things that we can't get past no matter how much we, no matter how much we don't identify with it, even though we suffer, as long as we continue to not acknowledge our own suffering and attempt to bypass it by helping other people do it in these relationships, the longer this is going to take. But that has a lot to do with what kind of energy Mars is, charging forward for you in the ninth house, right? This is this gets some stuff done, right? This is the head of the battlefield in some ways with Mars out here. And best case scenario is truly this warrior nature out front, ready to go to war for a cause that, is, one side or the other, right? But if it's based out of a place that is more of a wounding, or if it's based out of not fully bridging our spiritual material nature and attempting to bypass our own suffering, then Libra, and who actually is a Libra sun is Vladimir Putin. So this is a great way to look at like that whole process and what is unfolding here, and how this can be it's a tricky place. And so when it's based out of when it's personal with Mars in the ninth, and it's very much a black or white issue, this can be very destructive. And if it is based in the idea of an acknowledgement of something that is being released in order to fully heal as an individual in these realms, wow, there is some real work that is getting done here, and some real push, some real enterprising energy into new ideas, right? And new understandings. And I think that has, again, a lot to do with this new moon for you, Libra, in terms of being able to see the potential of a new cycle of who you are coming forward. And this is going to stabilize it. Mars and Saturn, and in fact, the moon in your sign will create this air trine this great grand air trine over the weekend, right after the new moon, that really is stabilizing the parts that you're feeling about yourself that are not constructive anymore and need a mechanism to be released. And I think that has I think it'll be just this aha moment and an idea of where the energy can go next in terms of Mars, and that I would say that all of the information, all of the knowledge that is necessary is accessible and ready to be acted upon. And a sense of, like I said, there's a sense here of real stabilizing in the fifth house of your heart and your voice, and a reality check about how essential it is to be disciplined about this energy. It can't go beyond what this is energetically. And so it's really easy again to just kind of fold under the pressure and not even try to resonate in terms of your own vitalistic creative energy. But when Saturn moves forward, I think there's going to be more of like this confidence and a sense of like, no, I have something to actually offer, and it's powerful, and it gives a sense of almost security and surety in a place where there's going to be some serious questions about it, because, there is the excavator is getting fired back up again in the root system, right? And the letter of the law is where the Libra person, without that, there is no means to balance, right? There is no equilibrium without the law of nature, even, being the structure that naturally unfolds from that, right? It's without these things, there's no core stabilization. So I think it's important to, again, go back to the idea that even if there seems to be like a literal uprooting from where you feel safe and secure, Libra, as a result of Pluto stationing direct here, and this could be emotionally, and I would say when the moon comes into Capricorn on the 2nd for the first quarter moon, you're going to get a pretty good idea, right? You're going to feel into this area if the overcoming of fear and what it has to offer in this place. And you may be kind of projecting again this sense of calmness, and that I think is a great thing, but not to get, don't get the calmness that is being projected, right? The calm waters of your own self is going to be what allows you to kind of see a little bit more clearly, or feel a little bit more deeply into what is there if only you're able to reach past your own fear, right? But it will come from this sense of calm mind, even if it is just a projection of your personality. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but not to realize that this will cause friction. It's a first quarter square, so it's a crisis in action. We have to, take the energy and reorient what we're actually doing. And, Libra, you may find that just because you project this sense of balance, equilibrium, fairness, and justice, there is still the process now of feeling into the entire cycle, and your first resistance is going to be in your feels, in your deep feels. And pay attention, because I have a feeling that this is going to be really a lot more powerful come the full moon when Pluto stations direct in this house. So Libra, what else is going on just in these 2 weeks? Like I said, there is this stabilizing factor here. All of this Venus and Mercury retrograde in your 12th house, right? There's a lot of old stories here. There's a lot of karmic residue that's getting organized. Everything's being, put in its place. There's a lot of value and worth and meaning and warmth in a lot of ways towards and patience. It's like a pregnant mama here in this area of it all coming together and finding resolution at a soul level, right? And so, yeah, Mercury's still kind of, diving in here to the astral and making sure all these pieces are truly being put where they need to go. But you're really starting to come back online within who you are, and slowly but surely starting to bring your awareness back to those areas of individual identity and individual expression, because that's where it all starts. Right? And once you have that truly on lockdown in some ways, then the reflection of the social or interpersonal or romantic relationship, business relationship, whatever it is, will actually serve to give you so much more information about where you stand within yourself and where you stand in relation to your higher self. Truly, your relationships are a mirror for your own soul work, Libra. And I think that's just going to become way more accessible to your conscious personality, starting with this equinox and then surely the new moon. So if you are interested in going deeper into your own chart or getting the longer view of the lunar cycle, you are welcome to book the lunar transit forecast. Let me bring that flyer up for you. Also, if you're on my email list, which you can do that by going to catalystenergies.net, and right from the homepage, you can sign up, and I'll be sending out an email with this information as well. But for Aries and Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this lunar transit forecast sale rate is now available. So either a 30-minute tune-up, a 60-minute reading, 33 and 66 USD respectively, and you can go to catalystenergies.net and send me a message from there, or you can respond to the email if you're on my email list, and we can look at this lunar transit forecast in relation to your chart. So the other thing I want to share with you and offer is the personal astrological forecast for the entire equinox to solstice season. So it's the autumn in the northern hemisphere. We're going into spring in the southern hemisphere of our planet. But either way, a new process begins, and we are taking with us the archetype of the sacred human into the process of, decay, death, decay, and the fallow period, right? As the sun goes through Libra, Scorpio, Sag, the time of year that has to do with not necessarily ourselves, but everything that we have developed within ourselves and worked for is being offered into the process of ultimately regeneration and new growth. But it takes time, right? It takes hibernation. And, you don't get that when you're close to the equator, right? It's a growing season all year round. So the further north you go, and the cycle of the sun changes, these realities become way more part of our individual experience as well. So anyway, this is also available through catalystenergies.net or through the email that's going out to the list right after this broadcast. So you can book that. It's $99. It's a 90-minute recording, and we look at the entire season in relation to your chart. And so areas of life, of course, starseed markings that are relevant, and, problem solve, troubleshoot, and just give yourself an idea of the general fourth dimensional landscape as we move through this time, because it's pretty powerful and it's very intense, and we're all kind of like on the head of a pin in some ways, just kind of waiting, but also finding that stillness. And Libra people, I mean, that is your MO, is it not? Is to be that point, that 0 point of stillness, to apply your knowledge of self or your knowledge of the law or the knowledge of nature, to influence or create or create structures that enhance or create balance. So Libra, it's a good time for you. And of course, if you're watching this for that Libra person in your life, you may want to stick close by them because they intuitively, inherently hold the code for this time of year. So just like last month, right? Find the nearest Virgo and see what they're up to. At this point, find the nearest Libra and just kind of pay attention to how they're responding to the world around them, because that might give you a clue on how to best utilize this energy. So Libra, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you for what you bring to the table of this entire process of awakening and our spiritual evolution. It really does mean a lot, and I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful that you're here. So let me know if you want to book any of these services. I will see you on the next forecast when we do the full moon in Aries. So that's something you can always check out as well, but it will be directed at Aries. But take care of yourself, Libra.